Right, we think this is Bethenville Wood.
Yeah.
We're not too sure exactly where it is because it's not really marked on any of the maps at all. But we're in Rue de Bethenol,
Yep.
which is just a tiny one-track road, which again isn't particularly on the map. But he came here to do tank training, weren't you saying, Chris? And
yeah.
It's like exactly 97 years ago to the day.
To the day, remarkable. 22nd of June, as it is today. Yeah, he had his first taste of fighting at Avion when he was in the trenches, and he'd come back here, and he was in camp for a month, and then they came here. It looks like just for the day. So this terrain around us would have had a huge training and exercise, I gather, with tanks, which were still innovative then. But it's funny actually, the connect for my dad, because of course my dad was in the tanks in the Second World War.
Yeah. Well, maybe training with tanks means walking behind them rather than being in them.
Oh, and definitely, it would have been moving across this terrain, wouldn't it, with all the tanks in front?
Yeah. Doesn't look like a communication trench now, but that's what it actually is, this road, which is actually called the 8th of May, so that's obviously to commemorate the end of the Second World War.
Well, it's here, isn't it? You can see it on the map. That's where we're standing here, right on that junction. So that was Mersey Communication Trench. And we're going to move in a second to see where he fought, and he was gassed around this railway embankment here. But it's not very interesting to look at, but at least we were here.
We were.
Oh,
At the moment, Chris is standing in the middle of the railway line, which is a bit of a dangerous place, but it probably was 100 years ago. Obviously, it's now just a cycle path for people. It's difficult to see because it's really quite overgrown now. But
and what?
the land slopes away quite dramatically down here, down below us, and you can see that that is obviously the railway embankment that they were actually trying to get at, trying to climb up in order to take the railway line.
And we know he was trying to get here.
The Mersey communications trench where we've just come from is further back down on that in that direction, so it's quite difficult to know exactly how far along this line here that he was actually trying to take the embankment. Our feeling is that it's perhaps a little bit too far away, so we think we're walking in a likely direction where he was actually trying to take the embankment. So what dates were on these then, Chris?
Well, he was the 2nd of September was the date he was trying to take here, and we know the 5th of September was when he was gassed. So all we got is him moving. 31st of August they were back in Red Trench, and then came back here. He camped for a day near Vimy, actually, Vimy Ridge, and then on the 2nd of September was here trying to take this embankment. And in terms of the gassing, because this is where he was gassed. The notes again from the regiment: heavily shelled with mustard yellow gas in the early hours of the 5th of September.
So were you saying something about the Germans having some water area and trying to flood this?
Yeah, just look into, well, you can't see because it's all the trees here, but what would be the other side here of what was the railway line it sounded like a particularly gruesome no man's land, and the Germans flooded it. They put all sorts of rubbish in it and rubble in it and then flooded it out, so it was actually a no man's land that you couldn't cross, you know.
I think from looking at the dates and looking at the maps, I think it seems that Merrycourt was a bit to and fro. It looks like it got taken and then lost in the month that Harold was away, and then
do you want to just show that on the map?
When he's come back again. Okay, so this is where we've got the embankment. So this line here is the railway line. We're walking in this direction as well, and this is all round about the early part of September. This is where we've just come from the Mersey communications trench, and then when he comes back in October, he's actually involved in these trenches here. But we think all these tiny little crosses that you can see are just a mass of barbed wire, so the whole place must have looked absolutely horrendous.
Yeah. We thought 4 Plaster Piloni, but actually we think it's number 1. The address we were given, we know is a college, municipal college for young girls, and we thought it was here because number 4 is where we're standing. But as Jeff will now show you, actually, no doubt about it, the École des Filles is a building opposite us. And knowing that the number 2 stationary hospital was such a big setup, I think you can see through the gap there as well. This is one size building. We'll walk round it to give a full perspective, but almost certain. Would you say, Jeff, you think this is likely to be a location for most of the soldiers coming to number 2?
It's certainly of the right size, I would have said, yeah. So I think this has got to be the main hospital that he came to in 1918.
I think you're probably right. We'll just walk around the back to get a feel of the scale of it.
So we're now at the side of that grand building of the school. Just walking down, just so as you can get to see the scale of the building around the back of it.
This, Jeff, this is the picture we've got of all the evidence we've got of the hospital. This is the only thing I've been able to find on the internet, and it's a photograph from the hospital. And we're kind of trying to, I don't know, just trying to match things a little bit. The thing that struck me is if you look at this shaped window, look at the angle of it all, that just kind of looks right, doesn't it, when you look at these? Putting 2 and 2 together,
I think it does.
other side of Mericourt, and this is, we saw the railway embankments where the granddad, we know, was gassed. 5th of September, we know he's in Abbeville on the 8th of September. What I don't know after that, Jeff, is how long he was in hospital. My dad remembers him saying that it affected his eyesight, but it didn't sound like he was horribly ill and maybe in hospital for some time. So I'm guessing that during September he rejoined his battalion, almost certainly within a month, because a month later we're here now, and on the 2nd of October the 20th Division extended its line to the right where we now are. Avion had been, the Germans had left Avion, hence he's come back here. During, saying, again reading from the notes, fierce opposition from the German positions, fired upon from the east of Mericourt, from about where we're talking now. During the night, communication with 2 KSLI platoons in Acqueville Trench was impossible. On the morning the 4th of October, the CO took his remaining platoons and some of the trench mortar brigade, and that's my granddad's, over into no man's land. They reconnoitred Abash and About trenches, found them full of wire. Well, we probably kick in then. Jeff, you think you know where they are?
Well, I think that they're here in this, well, I'm not too sure what it is, potato field by the looks of it. So, certainly the first one will be.
Yeah.
What's the first one called, Chris?
Abash.
Abash.
But they're all named with an A for some reason. So the one, in fact, no, Abak and Abash, standing right where we are now. In fact, you can see it on the map, Jeff. We're standing here on this corner here. So the first trench, Abak, then there's Abash, About, Abed, Abaft. You would get lost, wouldn't you? You know.
Yeah, you say, I've forgotten what it's called, but I know it begins with an A.
Like Ab something. But so this first one is very close to where we're standing. And there's 4 in a line here, and then 1, I guess, just round the back gardens that we're looking at.
And then just to give us some sort of chance as to the geography of the place,
yep,
we've noticed that in the distance, once again, I think that's where we've just come from, being over towards Avion and towards the south, and we think we can see the Vimy Memorial again. Sort of trucking away anyway now.
This is not a white map. Right, okay, we've just moved round to the back of where all these trenches were, so close to each other. And again, Jeff pointed out, I don't know if they are potatoes, but here's the field now where they all were. And this just looks chaos around here, because we're hearing from the notes that of the 4 trenches, there are 4 trenches on this line from where I'm looking to the end of the road to further down on the right. We know there were Germans in a back trench at this point, where in early October, that we're in the 2 trenches in the centre ground. Well, I'll actually read it out. I can't do justice to it, I think, without reading it out. 4th of October, the CO took his remaining platoons and some of the trench mortar brigade into this area, into no man's land in front. They had a look at Abash and About, which are the middle 2 here, and found them full of wire. Later the Germans became active and they headed back across there.
Won't caught any of that, Chris. You have to say that bit again. Germans did what?
Sorry, did I look away from them?
Looked away from me as the car was going past.
The Germans had, where the traffic's coming down the road there, Aback is this strip right by that road. So the Germans were there. The King's Shropshires are here, right in front of us. So they're all, this is just chaotic, Jeff. They're just all running from trench to trench. Says an attempt was then made to come up Abaft to get behind the Germans, but that was thwarted. On the morning, 1 platoon from the 6th KSLI tried to work its way down the German front line to the junction of Bound. It was held up by a machine gun south. So if you cross the road, there's a German machine gun here. So we keep thinking about which side are they? Are the Germans in advance? Well, when you're fighting, it's not like that, is it? They're everywhere here.
Yeah, yes, you wouldn't know whether you were going to get attacked from in front or behind, really, would you?
One lovely thing in this report, though, Jeff, it does say here that that machine gun that you're looking at now on the south side of the road was knocked out by the trench mortar section which my granddad was in. You never know, it might have been him. I'd like to think that.
Yeah.
The Germans then opened up a very heavy bombardment, but it says here excellent work was done by the TMS, by the trench mortars. Fantastic. And they held their position, the KSLI, until the end of the day. It was relieved by the 7th Royal Sussex, and a day later Merricourt was taken.
Hey!
Yeah. So we're now at Neuville-Saint-Vaast, which was where Harold was after he'd been fighting at Merricourt. They were relieved, and we know he left from here to go to Monchy-Breton for that month's training. So we don't really know how long he was here, but it can't have been very long, just from looking at those dates. Maybe even only a day. So it's perhaps just somewhere they marched through, because they're a long way east of here for the month out of it. But they were certainly here for a day.
You'd certainly be glad to be heading away from the battle.
Yeah.
Heading towards it.
And this, the fighting at Merricourt that preceded him coming here, was the worst for him. You know, it just seemed to be reading the war diaries around that time and that place. It was just mad, and you'll see it within the trenches. They were just forward 100 yards, then back 300. It was really raw fighting. So you're right, I think. And this was the end of, once that finished, he didn't go to the front line trenches again. Sorry about that. Did he get your hand steady?
So this is Monchy-Breton.
It is.
So, according to your story there, he came here, what, in October was it?
Very early October.
And then trained for a month.
Yeah, that's right. Before heading for Cambrai. They left here and headed for Cambrai, but they were here a month training.
Well, we've just driven through the village, and there's not really an awful lot to see in the village, apart from the church, and quite an old building by it, so it looks to us that those are the only ones that really are anything like at least 100 years old. Well, this is the only bit in Monchy that looks to be reasonably flat ground, so we're guessing that this is where the camp was that he actually went into training for a month.
And it's big enough, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So we're in Tinque? Oh, Jeff, I'm not going to ask you anymore. Which is where lots of cars bang their horns. But this is, we're at the 30th of October. He went to Cambrai on the bus and came to here to be, I think they were just rounding up on the way through to the last few weeks of the war. But he was entrained here, and you think, Jeff, that means he probably came by train?
Yes, I do. It's a vast walk, that one, from where we've just been.
Yeah. And the station here is not very far, so he caught the train to here. I think he was only here probably one day anyway, not even that, and then said they were bused to Cambrai, so I guess he's in and out of here, isn't he?
Yes, I would have thought so, yeah. Just a stopping off point again.
Yep.
Again, it's quite a pleasant place, and this is church. station and the railway line are just to the south of here.
It's now 30th of October 1918, Jeff. Harold's come through the horrors of the fighting on the two occasions that he was really involved in it. So he's here on the 30th of October. We've got a wooden cross at home, I think I told you about, that he brought back from here, that Pauline's got. Really don't know the circumstances he collected that, but it looks like it was from somebody's house. It was a kind of a domestic type thing. But they were here 30th of October. They took the bus from Fremicourt to here. We were at Fremicourt the other day, and they were here for 2 days. We do know, don't we, Jeff, that this place was just razed to the ground?
Yes, they adopted a scorched earth policy, I think it's described as, isn't it? And just set fire to all the records and all the buildings. So, although a number of the buildings look pretty old, I suspect they've all been rebuilt.
Yeah. And we're in the square now, aren't we?
Yeah, this is the main square. There's another square just to the north of here, but this looks to be the main one.
That's where we ate last night. And he was here, he came back here after the war had finished on the 11th of November. He was back here on the, my memory's terrible, the 23rd of November. Yeah, so he left on the 23rd for a place called Rio, reaching Canberra on the 28th, was here for 3 more days. This is him now heading back, so his war was over.
Oh, it'd be a very celebratory atmosphere then, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
A huge difference maybe between the two dates, the 2 times that he was here.
Yeah, I think he was probably happy on both occasions, because at the end of October, there's still 2 weeks from the end of the war. They're following the frontline troops, so they're not fighting from now to the end of the war, and we'll see the last places that he heads to. So he doesn't fight from here on in. Now, he wouldn't know that, but he'd certainly know that you know, they are in reserve, so I would have thought he'd be good here, full stop.
Yeah. Just heading out of that small village that we've just been through. We noticed a sign for a British Commonwealth war grave site, so we've just come up here to Vaughan de Guise crossroads, where there's a smallish cemetery, but there was a lot of fighting going on. Well, it looks like from the 24th to the 28th of October, which involved the Suffolk Regiment, and they will have been coming up this road here, we think, which is currently the D114, but I think at the time that was quite possibly the main road from Cambrai. So they'd be coming up that hill there to try and take this crossroads, and we think that Harold left Cambrai on 31st of October.
No, 3rd of November.
Oh, he left there on the 3rd of November,
yeah,
did he?
On the 1st of October, and he left
Right.
on the 3rd of November.
Right, okay.
And I think he's here, almost certainly he stopped overnight here on the 4th of November. Got a noisy tractor again. Yeah, he's here on the 4th of November 1918. Sorry, that's exactly a week before the end of the war. But you spotted this, Jeff, that really poignant and really sad, and kind of just says what might have been. This is the day before he arrived. I'm sure he's here on the 4th of November. So on the 3rd of November, J. McLeod from the Royal Engineers lost his life fighting here. And all these other graves behind us are from the Suffolks, aren't they? But they're all around this time.
Yeah, through all the end of October.
End of October.
This is where he spent the second night, having come away from Cambrai.
Yep,
And
5th of November.
looks a quaint little village again.
Yeah.
We don't quite know how he got here, because there doesn't seem to be a direct road between the two. But this is where he spent his second night. So like you say, 5th of November. So we're less than a week away from the end of the war now. So we just stopped off en route to his next location. We just again noticed a sign for a cemetery. There are quite a number of graves here, both Allies and German. They've got all those white headstones there that are a different angle to the Allies. Are all German graves, but it's all intense fighting from round about the 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th of November.
Look at all of these, Jeff. 4, all the 4th of November these.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were, you're saying, all the way through.
So this side here is where the German lines are, and we're looking west now to where the Allies would have been attacking from. It's quite a valley again, with a nice stream at the bottom of it. So obviously they were battling their way across the stream and then up the hill, and meeting resistance from here at the top of it.
I think this is, we've said, probably one of the more beautiful settings. They're all fantastic what they do, these cemeteries, but I think this is a particularly peaceful and beautiful spot. But again, it's a day after my granddad was here. He seems to have been a day behind the fighting, and I think there was intensive fighting here, so I'm guessing all the way through to the end of the war he is right in the thick of it. Fortunately he's in the reserve troops rather than being right at the front, but there's what we can see here is fierce fighting.
This is Jen Lane. We had a lot of difficulty in finding this.
We did.
Ended up on 2 motorways, in fact, before we turned around. Because it was signpost, 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 and then it wasn't. And you end up by default on the motorway.
And this is another place. It's probably going to be the 6th or 7th of November when he was here. Overnight again. And this we're saying is not very far
from the previous
place. So this implies again
the front line was probably slowing down a bit.
Yeah.
Due to the fighting at places like that pole that we've just been to.
There's a pole, yeah.
Certainly compared to some of the marches that he was doing anyway.
And this is the last one. Did you say the next place after this is quite some distance?
Seems to be. The next place is supposedly 22 kilometres away,
which
on the map.
Which tends to imply the fierce fighting has obviously diminished somewhat then after here.
Unless they're just marching him in an easterly direction to bolster up the front line somewhere else.
Yeah, maybe. And wanted to get them there quickly.
Yeah.
Okay,
depends whether he thought the Germans might counter-attack, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
So, it was quite a pleasant little village.
Yeah, it is.
Now I think it's got a brewery in it, because I think that we were drinking Jen Lane last night. Driving back into within Ignis
Fenny
is going to be my interpretation. Notice this massive barn, which looks really like it was probably there at the time of the war. So we've just imagined really the Brits coming up here and then just spending the night perhaps in here. We know he spent the night here somewhere, so why not in a big barn like this?
Yeah, it could have been the last night as a fighting man as such.
Yeah,
on the 10th.
We've come across 2 or 3 along the road, haven't we, on the way?
Yeah.
But this has obviously survived 100 years, probably with loads of attempted blow-ups in the meantime. But it's still here and looks like it's fit for another 1,000 years, really, doesn't it? Before it disappears altogether. Phenomenal structure. I think if you were inside that, you'd probably feel very safe, wouldn't you?
I think I'd rather be in there than out of it.
Yeah. This is looking northeast towards Belgium, and this is the end of Harold's War.
It is. It's the end of it.
He's just about reached the Belgian border.
So this is it, Jeff. It's the end of our journey, our incredible adventure. This is where Harold finished on the first hour after the war was all over. So, crikey, we were just saying, incredible emotions. He must have been so unbelievably relieved that he's got through it all. But on that journey we've just done, just witnessing so many men losing their lives, which of course everywhere around here is, he must have thought, what was it all for as well? But can I just say, this has been an unbelievably special few days. I can't believe I've even found out where he was, never mind come and visited it, and I could not have asked to do it with anyone better than yourself. I mean that genuinely. I could make a joke here, I'm not going to.
Someone standing behind me, are they?
No, so a genuine, if you can film and shake hands. I mean it, Jeff. We've done,
Right. Thank you very much, Chris.
we've done a lot together.
It's been a lot of fun as well. It's an amazing experience, really, to follow somebody's personal war trail has just made it that much more enjoyable. So it's very good.
And the great thing is it's there on film, the magnificent filming that you've achieved. Not just for me to be able to look at it again, and you to look at it again, to remember, but I'll make sure my dad in particular, relatives from wherever and friends who've shown such interest in this get to see photographs and films, and we kind of got his little war, not his little war, his war a little bit closer to other people, so it's made it even more special than that. So,
And you might say it's the end of the adventure, but we've still got to get to the airport. And we're running late now,
we're an hour late.
And we don't have a map of how to get there.
We don't. That's okay.
So we're just going where the position of the sun is once again to try and find our way to the airport.
Plenty of room on the tape. We keep rolling. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.